The void stretched infinitely before them, a star-speckled maw of darkness dotted with the ghostly glow of distant suns. Amid that cosmic canvas drifted the hulking silhouette of the Aetheris, its once elegant lines now jagged, its hull pocked and scarred by centuries of neglect. Metal plates hung loose like tattered sails. Frozen plasma burns crisscrossed the bow and lattices of blue-white light. It was a monument to a long-forgotten empire, and Captain Rihanna Vale of the salvage freighter Mariposa could hardly tear her eyes away. "Magnificent," she whispered into her helmet comms, voice hushed with awe. "And ours for the taking." Below her, in the Mariposa's diagnostics bay, Arlo Wrench Haynes let out a low whistle. The triangular hollow projection of the cruiser rotated slowly, paused at each gash and dent as Ivy, his custom AI, highlighted critical data streams in neon overlays. "Hull integrity at 12%, Ivy reported in her precise, measured tone. "Environmental containment breached in multiple sections. Drive core output unreadable due to shield matrix collapse. Life sign scanners detect no organic matter aboard." Arlo leaned forward, eyes bright. "Nothing organic means no boarding hazards, except maybe automated defenses. Scan for active turrets or security drones." A moment passed before tiny, red icons blinked into existence across the projection, 36 in total, 6 on the port flank, 8 on the dorsal spine, the rest clustered around what had once been the command pyramid. "Defenses remain powered by standby fusion cells," Ivy continued. "Each turret has enough charge for approximately 20 volleys. Drone hangar bays offline, but I detect dormant nanoswarm ports embedded along the lower hull." "Nanoswarms," Arlo muttered, rubbing his chin. "Little self-replicating robots, exactly the kind of thing you don't want loose in a ship. They'll eat through the bulkheads and sprout more of themselves until the whole interior looks like a metallic termite mound." "A wise precaution," Ivy agreed. "Recommend thorough deactivation protocol upon boarding." Captain Vale's voice crackled in Arlo's earpiece. "We're in position. Hangar clearance is tight. Anyone who's not essential stays on the Mariposa Bridge. Arlo, you're up. Get your team in there and find out if the rumors about this old bird's still true." Arlo's grin was nearly feral. "Copy that, Captain. Ivy, prep the boarding shuttle. Let's see if these legends hold water." The shuttle's thrusters flared softly as it slipped toward the Aetheris's gaping hangar bay. Pale hull lights revealed faded Drathkar glyphs warning of unauthorized entry in script that curled like living vines. The boarding ramp extended with a mechanical groan, and Arlo led his 3-person salvage crew, engineers Maris Zhao and Jove Takeda, into the cavernous interior. A thin haze of ionized gas hung in the air, dancing with faint motes of bioluminescent dust. Everywhere the walls were crisscrossed with conduits of unknown alloy, pulsing with dim light as though the ship still drew breath. Arlo tapped his scanner against a nearby panel. "Environmental controls show oxygen levels at 23%, he reported. "Temperatures stable, around 27 Celsius. Radiation negligible. Hull vacuum seals intact in most sectors, but emergency bulkheads have bulged inward. Looks like they froze during abrupt decompression." Maris directed her flashlight toward a gleaming lattice of crystalline filaments weaving through the corridor ceiling. "These energy conduits, I've never seen crystal capacitors like this. They're fine-tuned to channel tachyon pulses." Jove tapped away on his neural interface pad. "I'm decrypting Drathkar security protocols. So far, I've disabled 2 automated turrets, still working on the grav shields. They've got a self-repair subroutine that keeps bringing them back online." Arlo pocketed his scanner and raised his voice. "All right, let's push toward the bridge. Ivy says if the drive's salvageable, that's where we'll find the core coupling." They advanced past a shattered bulkhead, steel ribs bowed outward as if from an interior explosion. Beyond lay a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. At its center, framed by burnt-out weapon pylons, the Aetheris's command deck slanted upward in concentric tiers like a stepped ziggurat. Plexiglass viewports lined the walls, but now they were cracked and opaque. Halfway up the ramp, Maris halted and shone her light skyward. "You guys seeing this?" she asked, voice echoing. "Looks like they installed bioceramic conduits." organic-grade circuitry integrated into the ship's neural net. Jove touched the wall and recoiled. It's warm, still warm. Neural pathways. I think this ship was alive. The notion lingered as they stepped onto the bridge. Consoles jutted from polished floors as if frozen mid-operation. One displayed a half-completed warp vector calculation. Another showed the outline of a stellar cluster. At the apex stood the drive core hatch, a hexagonal aperture rimmed with scorched scorch marks. Arlo approached it reverently. "Here she is," he said. "The heart of the legend." He connected Ivy's diagnostic probe to a recessed port. A soft hum filled the chamber as her avatar flickered into being on every creaking monitor. "Preliminary analysis astonishing," Ivy intoned. "Containment field is unstable but present. Drive core operating on residual zero-point energy. I estimate 500 terawatts of potential output, enough to punch through hyperspace barriers with ease." Maris whistled softly. 500 terawatts, that's more juice than an entire battle fleet." Arlo's fingers flew over his controls. "Then we'd better secure it before anyone else jumps on this jackpot." Suddenly, the deck shuddered as a distant explosion echoed through the hull. Warning klaxons blared in broken bursts. Jove's skin crawled. "We've tripped a failsafe. The hull vents are closing to seal off the bridge." Maris sprinted to a console, interfacing with frayed wiring. "If I can hack the gravlock latches..." "Yes. Opening." The massive doors ratcheted, upward with a grinding roar. Arlo gestured at the exit. "Move it. We've got what we came for." Their boots pounded the steel walkway back toward the shuttle bay. Behind them, more klaxons wailed as automated defense turrets powered up. Through the hatch, they glimpsed missile pods unfolding in the hangar. "Hostiles inbound," Ivy reported. "Boarding drones, approximately 12. Arlo nodded grimly. "Time to earn our pay. Shields up, scanners hot. Let's show this rust bucket what human ingenuity can do." And with that, the salvage crew charged forward, 3 humans against the silent ramparts of alien war. In the distant stars, the Etheris floated on, waiting for its legend to be reborn. The Mariposa's hangar bay had been transformed into a 3-deck maze of scaffolding, gantries, and suspended work platforms. Beneath the glare of portable plasma arc lights, Arlo Wrench Haynes and his eclectic crew of engineers, human, Ramali, and Jovian alike, moved with synchronized precision. Every hour brought new revelations: a hidden maintenance tunnel lined with Drathkar technogel, a tangled forest of bioceramic nerves snaking through conduit junctions, and gleaming tachyon capacitors that thrummed with barely contained energy. Arlo crouched before the Etheris's primary power node, welding torch in hand. Sparks danced across fractured glyphs as he patched the alloy, an exotic iridium carbon laminate that resisted even his hottest plasma torch. At his side, the Ramali cybernaut Arfen interfaced with a hovering datapad, her many-fingered manipulator arms dancing across an alien glyphic keyboard. "Core harmonics are out of phase," she reported in clipped Ramali tones. Ivy's translations indicate a bitemporal resonance loop that must be recalibrated, or the containment field will destabilize. "Understood," Arlo replied, setting down his torch. He slid a microsensor into a narrow crevice along the node's rim. Moments later, his goggles flickered as the readout scrolled across his visor. Resonance peaks at 15.7 cycles per microsecond, far outside safe margins. "Ivy, feed me the target phase angle." Ivy's holographic form materialized in the empty air beside him. Her voice was a calm counterpoint to the chaos around them. "Target phase angle, 42.3 degrees. Auxiliary graviton modulators must be tuned to compensate for cross-phase distortion. I recommend manual alignment via the aft gantry. They're sluggish but precise." Arlo nodded and handed the torch to Maris Zhao, the team's expert in alien alloys. Maris swept past him toward the gantry, graceful despite her human frame. Jove Takeda, cranial interface headset perched on his brow, trailed close behind, fingers flying over a wrist-mounted console. "I've overridden 3 of the 4 security subroutines," he called back. "But there's a quantum lock on the last one. I need 30 more minutes to brute force it." Meanwhile, the Jovian synth biomorph duo, Havrin and Soli were hunched over the drive core access hatch, disassembling its many layered seals. The hatch's edges shimmered with residual graviton energy, and each incision spilled motes of glowing static into the air. "These seals are adaptive," Havrin murmured, his six-fingered hands delicate yet unyielding. "They reform around any incision. We have to breach them in one continuous cut." As Maris adjusted the graviton modulators, Ivy projected a schematized overlay of the core's containment lattice onto the hangar walls. Glowing lines wove through the lattice like a phantom spiderweb. "Apply field harmonics here, here, and here," Ivy directed, pointing to 3 convergence nodes. "But proceed carefully. Overload one node and the entire containment field will fragment." Maris tightened a calibrating bolt at the first node. A soft pulse rippled through the lattice. "Node 1 stabilized," she announced. "Joves," console chimed. "Security override complete," he added. "No more auto defense, at least for an hour." Arlo wiped grease from his brow and surveyed his crew. Together, they were an unlikely alliance of species and skills, held together by a single obsession to restore the Etheris to its former glory. "All right," he said, voice firm. "Line up at the second node. We'll finish the harmonics, then tackle the drive core hatch. After that, we fire her up." As the team moved into position, Ivy withdrew into the ship's symbiotic neural net to monitor deeper systems. The hangar lights dimmed momentarily as auxiliary power rerouted through the new conduits. For a heartbeat, the Etheris seemed to inhale, its crystalline capacitors gleaming brighter, its hull thrumming with renewed life. And deep within the warped heart of the alien warship, the quantum drive coils began to glow once more, like veins filling with molten light. The legend of the Etheris was awakening, and with every spark, Arlo and his crew felt history shifting beneath their feet. The hum of awakened systems echoed through the hangar bay as the Etheris's newly stabilized core thrummed with barely contained energy. Arlo surveyed the final diagnostics on his wrist console, shields at 60%, weapons offline, drive primed but untested. He exchanged a tense glance with Captain Vale, whose stern calm belied the adrenaline racing through her veins. "Status," Vale demanded, shields holding. "Drive ready. Weapons require manual rerouting, about 20 minutes at full sprint." Arlo's fingers danced over the controls. "But we've got company." Outside the hangar's reinforced blast doors, the Mariposa's sensor suite crackled to life with a flurry of contacts. A convoy of civilian transports under siege by 3 Drathkar raiders. Their jagged silhouettes pocked the starfield, energy lances slicing through hulls like incandescent blades. "They're picking off refugees," Vale said, jaw set. "We can't just sit here." Ivy's calm voice cut through the tension. "Tactical. Analysis suggests we can't match the raiders in open combat yet. We need to leverage Etheris's unique capabilities, use the quantum drive for a flanking maneuver." Arfen, the Ramali cybernaut, tapped into the cruiser's motion control network. "If we sync the drive's subspace harmonics with the graviton thrusters, we can perform a short-range warp jump, get behind them before they know what hit them." Mari's Zhao chimed in over the comm. "Weapons jury-rigged to 40%. Capacity, plasma lance and Gauss rails functional, but will overheat if fired continuously. Then it's a one-shot deal," Vale concluded. "Arlo, prepare the shields. Arfen, coordinate the jump. Havran, Soli, stand by at the weapons console. Jove, keep those auto defenses offline." Moments later, the blast doors slid open. The cruiser lurched as Arfen spooled up the harmonics, and in an instant, the void outside warped and folded. Stars stretched into lines of light as the Etheris vanished and reappeared directly behind the largest raider frigate. "Fire!" Vale ordered. Havran's massive Jovian hands slammed the plasma lance trigger. A verdant bolt lanced out, engraving a molten scar along the enemy's dorsal hull. Simultaneously, Soli tracked with the Gauss rails, spitting hyperdense slugs that perforated thruster mounts. The raiders' shields flared and collapsed, but the Drathkar were nothing if not resilient. From the transport's direction, a barrage of seeker drones warheaded toward the Etheris's aft section. Ivy's warning came too late. An explosion rocked the deck, sending a spray of shrapnel across the command bridge. Arlo was thrown against a console. Dazed, he glanced up to see Vale bark orders, while Jove swore and ripped free a jammed data cable. "Hull breach aft," Jove yelled. "We've lost 2 gunners in the secondary shield matrix." Arlo staggered to his feet. "Ivy, reroute power from life support. Pump everything into aft shields and reinstate the graviton dampeners, the TU." Ship shuddered as emergency systems surged. Maris and Arfen raced to the maintenance catwalks, welding new conduits into place to restore the damaged matrix. Below, the plasmoid firestorms of the Drathkar drones lazed across the decks, their tiny charge carriers ablated by the reinforced shields. Through the haze, Vale's voice cut clear. "Good work. Shields at 85%. Arfen, get us back in warp range. Havren, lock onto the remaining raider transports. We finish this now." With a roar of engines and a cascade of violet arcs, the Aetheris phased again, this time emerging in the heart of the skirmish, shields rippling, as incoming fire fizzled harmlessly against its barrier. The resumed assault was swift. Gauss rails tore through command bridges, plasma volleys shattered weapon arrays, and seeker drones were swallowed by a hastily erected point defense lattice. Within minutes, the Drathkar threat was neutralized. The fleeing transports drifted free, their crews cheering through comms as the Aetheris's profligate silhouette blocked the twin suns on the horizon. Silence settled, broken only by the creak of settling armor and the beeps of winding down systems. Arlo slumped against the rail, breathing hard. Vale stepped beside him, her expression unreadable. "You did it, Wrench," she said quietly. "You all did it." Arlo let his visor lift, exposing eyes bright with exhilaration and exhaustion. "We just got lucky," he replied. Ivy's avatar flickered on the viewport, her voice soft but proud. "Luck is the residue of preparation. The Aetheris lives again." And as the repaired cruiser drifted among the grateful transports, its battered crew realized that in the void's crucible they had not only proven the legend of the Aetheris, they had forged one of their own. The vastness of space felt different now, brighter, alive with possibility. As the Aetheris drifted alongside the grateful convoy of civilian transports, its hull gleamed under the twin light of Ankari's suns, each polished plate a testament to the human spark of ingenuity. Within the hangar bay of the Mariposa, Arlo Wrench Haynes and his crew basked in the afterglow of victory, their soot-smudged faces lit by the soft hum of the restored quantum drive. Captain Vale gathered them on the bridge of the Aetheris, where holographic displays traced the new hyperspace lanes charted during their battle. "We've done more than repel pirates," she said, voice echoing in the control room. "We've proven that the old legends can be reborn, and that humans can stand beside any galactic power in sheer mechanical prowess." Arfen's multi-jointed arms twined around her data pads as she projected a tactical model of the Andromeda corridor. "With the Aetheris's capabilities restored to 83% and rising, we can secure critical trade routes and protect civilian shipping from the Conclave's remnants." Her silver-toned voice carried a note of eager anticipation. Maris approached the quantum drive access hatch, brushing her glove over the hexagonal frame. "I've recalibrated the tachyon injectors for greater stability. If we continue upgrades, at this pace we'll push the drive well beyond its original performance specs." Havren and Sully stood guard at the weapons consoles, checking plasma lance capacitors and Gauss rail nodules. "We've integrated Jovian overcharge protocols," Havren reported. "Our first live-fire test will demonstrate true firepower, enough to deter any raider force." Jove tapped his headset, pulling up news feeds flooding in across the galactic network. "Holovids of the Aetheris saving those transports have gone viral," he said with a grin. "Pilots and merchants across 3 systems are already requesting escorts under the Aetheris banner." Arlo surveyed his crew, Ramali, Jovians, and humans united by sweat sparks and sheer stubborn determination. Ivy's avatar shimmered near the viewport, her fractal form pulsing with data. "Status of automated systems integration?" he asked. Ivy's holographic tendrils traced through schematics displayed around them. "Hull to neural net interface, operating at 95% efficiency, weapon and shield subsystems fully online, and life support redundancies exceeding Conclave standards." I've begun sharing our modifications to Allied shipyards. A cheer rippled through the room. Captain Vale stepped forward, placing a hand on Arlo's shoulder. You set out to salvage an abandoned wreck, she said, her eyes reflecting the starlight. But you've done more than that. You've given hope back to countless worlds. You've made the Aetheris a legend again. Arlo let the words sink in. His gaze drifted to the viewport, to the endless expanse beyond. The Aetheris's restored drive coils pulsed a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing through the cosmos. He turned back to his team. This is just the beginning, he said. We've reclaimed a relic of war. Now we'll use her to build peace. Below deck, engineers and dock workers hurried to implement Ivy's blueprints. Outside, freighters and patrol frigates began to adorn their hulls with the Aetheris's new emblem, a human wrench crossed with the Drathkar sigil, bound by a ring of starlight. Across the Andromeda corridor, whispers of the mechanic of miracles spread, stories of a human who dared to tame a starship once abandoned by its creators, and in doing so, rekindled its power for a brighter future. As the Aetheris ignited, her quantum drive once more, the stars outside stretched into elongated streaks of light. Captain Vale gave the order. Engage warp. With a thunderous roar of subspace energy, the legendary cruiser leapt forward, carrying with it the hopes of every soul who believed that even in the darkest void, human ingenuity could light the way.